Have you ever stopped to think about how many times you've looked in the mirror and no longer recognized yourself? Not because you've changed physically, but because deep down, you know you've lost yourself trying to become what others expected of you. Successful, competitive, a provider. Since you were a boy, you were taught that being a man means having, conquering, accumulating. But no one told you the price this demands from your soul. The money you're chasing might be slowly killing the man you were born to be. And perhaps, without realizing it, you're selling your essence for an empty round of applause. Modern society has turned money into a measure of personal worth. And for men, this has become almost a life sentence. From an early age, we're conditioned to believe that our identity is directly tied to our ability to generate wealth. The car we drive, the watch we wear, the house we live in, all of this has become a kind of armor, a facade we use not just to prove something to others, but to ourselves, to convince ourselves that we are enough, that we are real men. But in this mad race, many have become experts at appearing and amateurs at being. They end up trapped in jobs they hate, going into debt for status, sacrificing mental health and time with loved ones for an approval that rarely lasts more than a few seconds. Life becomes a theater. Plastic smiles on social media, goals that don't come from within, a masculinity increasingly detached from any true authenticity. The truth is, the pursuit of status has become a silent addiction. An addiction fueled by constant comparison, by algorithms that shove others' success in our faces, and by a culture that measures you by your utility. And the more you try to climb this invisible ladder, the more you realize it has no end. Because there will always be someone with more money, more followers, more power. And in this endless climb, the man starts to fade. He swallows his emotions, suffocates his values, and sets aside what truly made him unique. He trades presence for performance, purpose for prestige, intimacy for image. And the more he molds himself into what the world expects, the further he drifts from who he really is. This doesn't mean that money is the villain. Money is a tool, not an identity. The problem starts when it becomes the center of life, the filter for all decisions, the standard for every choice. When a man lives only to produce, consume, and prove he has, he stops truly living and starts merely playing a role. How many men do you know who have everything except peace? Who have achieved financial success but can't stand to be alone with their thoughts? Who no longer know what they like, what they believe in, or what they dream about? Because everything has become a calculation, a spreadsheet, an external validation. We're creating a generation of men who are financially active but emotionally bankrupt. The saddest part is that many don't even realize they're trapped. They mistake effort for purpose, routine for meaning, and success for fulfillment. But the truth hurts. Too many men are dying inside, while everyone else applauds what they have on the outside. Nietzsche once said that he who has a why can endure almost any how. But the modern man, immersed in a culture that idolizes productivity and consumption, has lost his why. He works, runs, achieves, but all of it guided by goals that aren't truly his. The freedom he seeks through money often becomes just another form of prison. And at the end of the day, he wonders why he still feels this emptiness, even after doing everything right. Jung's analytical psychology speaks of the inner hero's journey, a process of individuation, of discovering who we truly are behind the social masks. But how can this journey even begin if we're too busy trying to prove something to the world? The obsession with status blocks self-discovery. A man becomes a prisoner of his persona, that edited version of himself he created to fit the expectations of the system. And the more he drifts away from his essence, the more he feels lost, disconnected, anxious. In the spirituality of many masters, the path to fulfillment lies in surrender, in presence, in silence. But the man conditioned by the market doesn't know how to stop. He can't simply be. He feels guilty for resting, ashamed of showing vulnerability, afraid of being seen as weak if he's not constantly winning. And in this endless race, he loses the chance to listen to his own soul, which whispers silently the very thing he needs to remember. You are not what you own. You are what remains when everything else is gone. True masculinity isn't built on accumulation, but on integrity. It isn't measured in figures, but in coherence. A man who lives aligned with his purpose doesn't need to shout his worth. He lives in a way that the world can feel. But to live this way takes courage. The courage to question the model. The courage to stop following the expected path and start building your own. The courage to come home. Not to a house of bricks, but to the inner home where what no amount of money can buy resides. Meaning. You wake up early, grab a quick coffee, and hit the traffic while listening to a podcast on how to be more productive. You get to work, check tasks off your list, respond to emails on autopilot, and pretend everything's fine. At night, you open Instagram and see an old college friend posting photos from Dubai with a luxury car. You don't know how he really feels, but you know what it stirs in you. Comparison, frustration, that nagging sense of always being behind. And then you think, I need to push harder, work more, earn more. As if, at some point in this race, you'll finally find peace. In relationships, this logic doesn't stop. You start measuring your worth by how much you can provide. You pick up the check at dinner, but can't talk about how you feel. You buy gifts, but don't offer real presents. You keep up the appearance of stability, but inside, you're falling apart. Deep down, you start to believe that showing strength means hiding pain, when, in reality, true strength lies in facing it. But that doesn't fit the narrative of the successful man. The man who suffers in silence, who has no time for friends, who no longer knows what makes him truly happy. And this pressure doesn't stop even when you're alone. Free time becomes just another opportunity for self-improvement, to consume more content, to chase the next step up. Reading for pleasure? No time. Silence? It feels unsettling. Meditation? It seems like a waste of time. You've become so used to running that the thought of stopping scares you. Because if you stop, you might realize you've been running in the wrong direction for years. The real turning point comes when you stop living to impress and start living to find yourself. When you realize that the success that truly matters isn't measured in numbers, but in meaning. That true wealth is having the time to be a father, to be present, to take care of your mind, body, and soul. It's not about giving up material achievements. It's about not losing yourself in them. Money can buy you comfort, but only purpose will give you peace. You don't need to abandon ambition. You just need to align that ambition with what truly matters to you. With what you would do even if no one was watching, even if it didn't earn likes, money, or applause. Because in the end, it's not about what you have. It's about who you become in the process of building. And that man, the one who won't sell himself for scraps of approval, is the man the world needs. And deep down, you know he's the man you could be. If this message resonated with you, if at any point you saw yourself in these words, consider subscribing to the channel. Here, we don't just talk about money, we talk about purpose, freedom, and what it means to be a man in today's world. And if this touched you, share it. Maybe another man out there needs to remember who he truly is.